What is up YouTube? I'm Royal. I'm gonna get rank 1 in Wild Rift in patch 6.2 and that's guaranteed because this patch looks so fun, so I'm definitely ready to grind. In this video we're gonna be breaking down the meta. I've been playing on the PvE for a few weeks now, preparing for patch 6.2 in secret, just to be ready for this patch, and there's so many amazing changes. This is one of the biggest patches we've got in a while. It will completely change the way that the game is played because they're making changes to the fundamentals of the game. They're changing how minions work, how towers work. So this is an absolutely massive buff with new items, of course, new champions, new enchants. So instead of me just yapping about the exciting things, let's jump straight into it and I'll give you the exact breakdown you need. We're mostly going to be focusing on the competitive side of things, right? I'm going to mostly be ignoring the new skins and the new events and so on. We're just going to focus on what this changes for ranked more than anything. So let's start with the champion changes. So I was going to do a reworked Varus video during the PvE, but my Swain video that I did, the reworked Swain video, didn't do so well, so I guess you guys just aren't super interested in seeing that before it's live in your games. But I did play him many times to do this video, and I played a lot of different play styles. So the main things that change, I'll just give you the rundown of what I said in the video pretty much, is they're changing it so he does less burst damage, but more consistent damage, right? That's the main change of Varus. So his passive, instead of giving him an attack speed boost, it gives an AD AP boost based on your attack speed. So it incentivizes you to build attack speed, right? That's number one. Your first ability, the base damage is being buffed, and these numbers are actually slightly different than the PvE. So the base damage are being buffed. So lethality Varus might be a little better, or at least even, but this hybrid Varus build that everybody does with like Essence Reaver and Trinity Force won't be as good anymore because of the second ability changes. They're making it so that the missing health damage that you do from 8 to 16 is being nerfed, right? The missing health damage that you do is being nerfed, so your burst is a little lower. You can just ult and then first ability with your second ability and one-shot someone. Instead, now the correct playstyle for Varus is auto attack, auto attack, auto attack. Get the 3 stacks on the enemy. Use your first ability, boom, pop. Auto attack, auto attack, auto attack. Use your third ability, boom, pop. And that actually reduces the cooldown of not just your first ability like before, but now of all your cooldowns. So your third ability and second ability will also be decreased. So these are the main changes. On-hit Varus is hugely buffed from this, especially with the new Ruinous Hurricane, which works incredibly well on Varus. So I think on-hit Varus is going to be one of the strongest champions this patch. It feels extremely strong. AP Varus actually received a pretty big buff here as well. If you're paying attention, the base attack on-hit damage was increased by quite a bit, right? There's no active part anymore, so when you click your second ability, it doesn't double the damage, but just the passive part does 40 or 39 plus 35 AP power. That's how much your second ability adds to your damage. And Nasser's Tooth got buffed too to 30% instead of 25% for AP champions. So with Nasser's Tooth, with just 15 base damage, you're going to be doing 54 plus 65% of your AP on hit on Varus. So attack speed AP Varus with Nasser's Tooth is actually going to be one of the strongest builds for him going forward. I think the 2 good builds for Varus now are going to be on hit, where you're just going for Terminus and so on. Then AP on hit, where you're going for Nasser's Tooth and Rift Maker and those types of items. That is also going to be really OP because your attacks just do way too much. They have too high of an AP scaling, in my opinion, right? It's insane. So this build is also going to be really good on Varus. And of course, the lethality will still be okay, but I don't think it will be as strong. Like, even though this is a nice change on him, it's overall like those other 2 builds will just be stronger. And I think those other 2 builds will actually be one of the best, will make Varus one of the best champions to this patch. So the Zeri rework, which is also a champion that I played quite a bit, this actually, it seems like a big rework, but it's really not, from what I understood while playing her. So they're trying to make her less dependent on enchanter supports and shields in general, right? They're removing the 15% movement speed she gains when shielded, so that she's good with every type of champion, not just enchanters, which currently she's mostly been good with enchanters, right? So she doesn't shield herself for damage dealt to shields. I think they're actually moving that to another ability, unless I'm wrong. So they're moving her first ability passive to her passive, and her first ability now gets a new passive. When you kill a minion, you get refunded of your first ability. Your second ability now does magic damage, so it works better when you build armor pen, right? So instead of Terminus, you benefit more from Moral Reminder and so on. But yeah, the Zeri rework, even though this seems like big changes, not much is changing. They're just making it so she's a little better without enchanters. She gains, I think, more movement speed on her ulti as well, but it's not really huge changes that will impact her core gameplay too much. Unlike Varus, which completely changes the way that he's being played, right? You're just gonna be building crit AD still on Zeri and being a good hyper carry, but now you can function a lot better without shields being the primary thing. Ashe, they're pretty much just changing nothing here. They're just making it so that you do damage right away instead of your passive. Like right now on Ashe, if you auto attack, then your next auto attack will do more damage because you have to apply the frost shot of your passive. But now they're making it so that's not the case because people, I guess, got too confused with it. She scales a lot better with crit now. Scaling with her critical damage. And they've simplified her first ability. Now it's 4 stacks instead of 6, and it has no cooldown. Overall, I think this is actually a tiny buff, which is nice. And I mean, most of these champions will be make or break from the item changes that we're going to talk about later, because all the ADC items are getting reworked. For Jinx, they're just giving her, they're storing mana when she gets her passive, which is nice. Laughed Up, they just added some damage to it. It doesn't, if I'm understanding correct, the previous part of Laughed Up also stays, but now when you get 3 stacks, you just like do a bunch of damage. So this is a very nice Misfortune buff, a champion that didn't really need buffs, but I guess we'll see how the items impact her, right? That's the main thing. Vayne, they're moving away from, they're trying to move away as much as they can from Baron lane Vayne and Soul lane Vayne and focusing on ADC Vayne, right? This is the main change. So now instead of it being for your next 3 auto attacks, you gain less attack speed, but you gain 10% Omnivamp for 3 seconds. So instead of just getting a boost for 3 attacks, you get a boost for 3 seconds. It's a smaller boost, but you also get Omnivamp, so you heal from anything. So it's a decent change. It doesn't really make or break Vayne, it just makes it a little worse in the solo lane. Tryndamere, and this is big by the way, especially with the item changes. I expected to see some kind of Tryndamere like not nerfs, but like some kind of compensation nerfs on his passive, same as Yone and Yasuo, which we didn't see, because of the new crit items. Whenever you change crit items, those champions are bound to be OP. They're just bound to be OP. They will find one of these items to completely abuse, right? I'm talking about the Wind Brothers and Tryndamere, the melee crit champions, right? But instead they're buffing it. So once you have more than 100% crit rate, it converts it 1-to-1 to crit damage. Not to crit damage, to attack damage, right? So you can overcap on crit and still be fine, which is really, really dangerous for champions like Tryndamere. Like a full item Tryndamere now is going to be one-shotting you with auto attacks. And they're buffing the attack speed on his ultimate as well. When you upgrade your ultimate, you get more attack speed. So this is actually really insane for Tryndamere. Like a full AD Tryndamere build is going to be scary when played well. So this might actually make him a niche good pick in certain situations. Kindred is getting passive marks, which is nice because it felt pretty difficult to get your marks, especially from behind. So this is a very nice change for Kindred players. Might make her a little more viable when it comes to playing from behind, right? The main thing that you fear as Kindred right now, especially because her early game is not very good, is, oh, I'm going to pick Kindred, I'm going to fall behind, and I won't be able to get any more marks, and I'm going to lose the game, right? So that's why she's not really played. But this actually helps a lot with that. So this is a very nice change to Kindred. Rammus. So we're actually seeing Rammus buffs, which is, I'm not sure if they're doing it in preparation for ADCs being OP, and they're like, here you go, you have a counter, you have Rammus, right? So he's Spike Shell deals more damage, which is really good because it helps with your clear, even though it's not a huge buff, but it helps with a clear for sure. It also helps against attack speed heavy ADCs, right? Because it's more base damage on each auto attack. Countering the attack speed heavy ADCs, and of course your ult having a lower cooldown will give you more gank opportunities in the early game, which of course Rammus loves. Overall good changes, not needed in my opinion. Rammus was already in a good spot, but we'll take it. Rakan, these are actually really big buffs. 5 seconds off your passive, 30 base health, more damage on your first ability, and more health regen on your first ability, and then more damage on your second ability. I would say that these buffs aren't necessarily needed, but Rakan was one of the weaker playmaking supports, right? Engager supports. So this is nice to see. I think this will definitely push him to be S tier and possibly one of the best supports in the game. Okay, so the new item update. Back in the day, we had like these upgraded items like Infinity Orb and so on. Now we have again upgraded items, but they're called Yordle items. So some items are just getting like a pretty big buff here. So starting off with the Yordle Redemption, who loses 5 ability haste. And the effect can be triggered just on your own, without having champions nearby. So this actually kind of screams to me a viable item for solo lane tanks, perhaps. To have like infinite sustain, like if you have a Scion, right? And you can just sustain in the solo lane. This actually makes the Scion build that I made with Break the Meta a few months back even better, right? Where I said just maximize HP on Scion and build Redemption, right? And just heal your entire team. You can still do that, but now it heals you in the side lane, which is pretty cool. Yordle Sunfire Aegis. So this is getting buffed. The main things that are being changed is the fire path. Now, when you get max stacks, max immolate stacks, so when you do the 4 stacks of Sunfire Cape, it now leaves a trail behind you that does magic damage. It's really not a lot of damage from what I can tell, but it's gonna make it feel a lot cooler, I think. Like, it's not really a huge buff, but it's gonna definitely make it feel cooler. Overall, I don't think that this is a massive buff, and I think that tank solo laners will also get heavily nerfed this patch because of Hullbreaker. Unless your champion can use Hullbreaker, but even if you're playing like Poppy or Scion who can use Hullbreaker, you're never gonna beat a Fiora or a Camille that can use Hullbreaker, you know? So overall, I do think that the tank Baron laners have gotten quite a bit nerfed from this. Okay, Yordle Harmonic Echo, so it's a little cheaper, which is always really nice for supports. And yes, it loses 15 AP, which isn't great, but the passive changes, it bounces to an allied target and you heal for 50% of their Harmonic Echo effect, and restores 2% of their health per second for 3 seconds. So overall, this is a big buff, right? You lose 15 AP, but most champions that build Harmonic Echo don't have good AP scalings, right? Like maybe Nami does, but Janna certainly doesn't, Soraka certainly doesn't, Lulu certainly doesn't, right? Most Enchanter supports don't have great AP scalings, so they don't care too much for this. But making it cheaper even for 100 gold is nice for supports who don't have a lot of gold income. And this is just a straight up buff, right? You heal another champion. Especially, it just makes like the old Harmonic Echo that used to heal 3 champions. This just heals 2. So overall, it's a buff, right? And Harmonic Echo is already strong. So I'm expecting to see this rushed by pretty much every Enchanter support. But we're going to take a look at the other support item changes. I believe there's more. Yordle Liandry's Torment, and this is a super exciting buff. This brings dot champions, damage over time champions, back to really, really strong. So, they changed the damage per second, so it's not based on AP anymore, right? It used to be based on AP. Now it's just based on the enemy's maximum health, but it scales with time. So you can just rush it first item and instantly do a lot of damage, right? You're going to start with 0.6 on level 1. But by the time you build it, you're already probably like level 7. So you're going to be at like 1.2 or something. So overall, it's a buff in the early game, right? This change, by nerfing the super late game. But they have introduced a second passive every 4 seconds. Keep in mind that this is active for 3 seconds. So you're not always going to get the Infernal Agony if you do damage with one ability. You need to hit them and for 1 second after again to get at least one Infernal Agony, but many champions will be able to get more, right? So every 4 seconds, you get 40 plus 5% AP true damage. So 40 true damage in the early game is insane. The 5 AP scaling might not seem like a lot, but when you're talking about true damage, it's not bad. Let's say you have 500 AP, right? Being able to deal an extra 50 damage, or is an extra 25 damage, true damage, ain't bad. But overall, this seems to be a more early game oriented item. Before, you would only build Leandries in the super late game, right? Or unless your champion was like Teemo or Lilia, where you would build it usually as the third or second item. But Leandries was more focused around after Death Cap because of the AP scaling being so important on it. But now I think Leandry's Tournament will be a great first, second item for champions like Brand, Lilia, Teemo. Teemo's gonna love this, right? So these champions that can kind of keep reapplying damage over and over will definitely benefit a lot from the Infernal Agony. And the 40 base damage is really big in the early game. So I'm super excited to play some Lilia and Teemo with this item. Infinity Orb is losing some AP, but instead it gets a really awesome passive. So whenever you kill an enemy champion, but they need to take your inevitable demise damage, so they need to take damage from your, like you need to crit them with an ability, right, which is the first passive, which is not shown here. You deal 50 to 85 plus 20% ability damage to nearby enemies. Overall, I don't think that this is super relevant, in my opinion. It's okay, right? But keep in mind that this damage is not high. It's kind of like proccing Ludens. Maybe a little better than Ludens in the late game with a 20% AP power. It's like proccing Yordle Snaptrap, kind of. Or Bandle Fantasy, I think it's called. Yeah, Bandle Fantasy, like the Ludens other item. The one that looks like Ludens and does the same thing as Ludens. But overall, like, it's a fun change. Like, it's gonna make that item cooler, but it's not like it's a huge buff or anything. I can see it be good on reset champions. Like, Katarina definitely will benefit from this. Maybe a champion like Akali can benefit from this. Syndra can maybe benefit for this. But it's not like a massive change, and you do lose 5 AP for it. So overall, I'd say maybe slightly better than before, but not a big buff to Infinity Orb or anything like that. Serylda's Grudge is gonna becoming more expensive. Serylda's Grudge is not Moral Reminder, but the other armor pen item that slows. So it's becoming more expensive, but now you get Frostbite. So if you're able to, when enemies are slowed by your passive already, and you can apply it 3 times, you can slow them 3 different times. And then you apply like a bleed, similar to like Talon's passive, over 2 seconds. And it actually deals a decent amount of damage. So if you're playing a champion that can easily apply these Frostbite stacks, like Talon, right? It's actually a great example. Then this is really good. So they're trying to make it, and you'll see from the changes to Moral Reminder, they're trying to make it for this to be the go-to armor pen item for bruisers and for assassins, right? Before, even if you're playing a champion like Zed, which you'd think would love this item, Serylda's Grudge, you would still see a lot of Moral Reminder because the anti-heal passive was just way more worth it than the 1 second slow, right? Same with Talon, same with Lee Sin. Now this is gonna be the go-to item, and you're gonna see why, because not only did this get buffed for these champions, but Moral Reminder received nerfs for these types of champions, and we'll go into it when we talk about Moral Reminder. Duskblade is losing 5 AD, but it's getting a really cool passive. So after you get after you get a kill, actually, not a takedown, after you get a kill, you become invisible for 1 second and gain 60% movement speed. So this is absolutely insane for some champions like Rengar, like Zed, like Talon, like Kha'Zix even, who's already super invisible, right? They can jump into the fight, assassinate someone, but then usually if you don't have stasis, you're just a sitting duck and you will die with these assassins. But this actually gives you a chance to escape because you get a 1 second where you're invisible and 60% movement speed. You pretty much get a Kha'Zix ulti, right? You get a Kha'Zix ulti here, and it has a 5 second cooldown, so it's not like you can get a kill someone immediately and get it again. But this gives you a chance to maybe go to a different target or maybe escape the fight. Hurricane, they're making the range shorter because obviously before it was really OP. If you were playing a super high range champion, it would like outrange your decks by quite a lot. So now this makes more sense. You're not going to be hitting the back line with your bolts. You're only going to be hitting the people who are actually like close to you. And you're going to be getting a little less AP and AD. But for your troubles, right, for these 2 nerfs, you're getting this massive buff. Every 2 attacks, your next attack fires an additional bolt at targets, dealing 10% physical damage and applying on-hit effects. That's the crucial line here, applying on-hit effects. So champions that have on-hit effects will be able to apply it more often, right? So when you think of champions like Vayne, which I tried it, and for some reason it doesn't work on her second ability passive on the PBE. I'm not sure if it's a buff or if it's a bug, but it didn't work. So maybe it's gonna work in the live servers. I'm not familiar. But champions like Varus will obviously benefit a lot. Possibly Akshan, possibly not. Akshan needs like AD instead of attack speed. But for on-hit champions like Kaisa will benefit from this quite a bit, right? Then this is a great change. I guess we'll see how it plays out because the stats you get, right? So spending 3,000 gold and only getting like 15 to 30 ability power and attack speed is like 15 attack damage and attack speed is not great. So the gold value is not there, but it just depends how well your champion uses this Razor Wind passive, right? I thought about this on Master Yi too. I haven't tried it out, but it'd be really awesome if you can get his 2 damage on his 3rd ability through this. But I guess we'll find out. And Death's Dance. It stores physical damage and magic damage taken, which is really insane. This is gonna make a lot of bruisers absolutely mentally strong, and it's gonna counter a lot of burst assassins and mages, right? Imagine that you're playing, I definitely will see this probably build on ADCs as well, to counter assassins, especially AP assassins like Evelyn, right? This gives you a good counter to Evelyn, Fizz, all those types of champions. It's gonna be great in the side lane for a lot of side laners really benefit from this, and the new old item, Holdbreaker, right? Their split push is gonna be so insane, and with the Death's Dance, you can even defend as a mage, right? If you go to a mage in a side lane, they will just absolutely destroy you now. All right, let's look at the Critical Strike Marksman rework. So they are changing the items quite a bit and bringing some new items. Overall, I think I've seen a lot of people talk about, oh, this is an ADC patch and ADCs are getting big buffs. After like studying these items and playing with them, I honestly don't think that ADCs are that strong from this. And I definitely don't think that you should just be taking ADC in 4 roles. Like a lot of people have been saying how OP ADC will be. I don't think they will be OP. I think this is like a buff to certain champions. Some ADCs will be better, some ADCs will be worse. But overall, this is not a big buff from ADC, this patch. The biggest buffs from this patch I've noticed is mages, who we'll talk about that later in the minion changes, and split push Baron laners, like Fiora, like Jax, like Camille, like Riven, Darius, whatever. I think those are the biggest winners of this patch. I think the Marksmen are actually a little overrated, and let's see why. First off, new items, Soul Transfer. So, it costs 3,200 gold, which is a lot, by the way. It's a lot of gold. For 200 more gold, you can buy an Infinity Edge. Keep that in mind. And you only get 25 attack damage and 30% attack speed. Right? The build path is the Noonquiver build path, which kind of stinks. And the main thing of this is Shadow Dance. So, when you critically strike an enemy champion or epic monster, you summon a clone that lasts 4 seconds and it attacks nearby enemies. And the clone inherits 25% of your attack damage and additionally gains 30% of your critical rate as attack speed. So this is an item that you don't want to rush usually. You want to build as a 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th item. And only 2 clones can exist at one time. The clone can move, but if it moves a clone moves more than 600 units away from you, it will disappear early. So overall, I tried this item and it's kind of underwhelming, I'll be honest. I think the price for it is too expensive, and I don't see why you would build this over something like an Infinity Edge, to be honest. Infinity Edge is already not that great of an item. So I don't have high hopes for this item overall. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it's some kind of buff, to be honest, after trying it out. It was underwhelming, but it's a cool concept. If they just buff it a little bit, I think I would like it. Bloodthirster. They're changing Bloodthirster to kind of be the Immortal Shieldbow, and they're removing Immortal Shieldbow, right? They're getting rid of the attack speed on it, or they're giving attack speed on it, but they're getting rid of the passive, which gave attack speed, and now they're doing the they're doing this silly passive, right? And they're making it so that you only buy it for crit champions, right? Only attacks that critically strike gains the additional 4% vamp. So they're also incentivizing you not to get it too early either. They want you to get more crit damage before you get it. It's still a slightly better version than Immortal Shield Bow because you still get more AD. I think it's 50 AD as compared to the Shield Bow, which is 40. So this will likely be, and you also get a better passive, right? Because you get the 20 armor and 20 magic resist. Like overall, this will likely be the best first item for more defensive ADCs that don't really benefit too much from the other items I'm going to talk about, most notably the Magnetic Blaster, which I think is one of the best items now, but this is just a more buffed Immortal Shield Bow, so this will probably be the go-to first item choice for a lot of ADCs, especially against assassins. Yeah, so the Bloodstone passive has been removed. Navori Quick Blaze loses 5 AD, loses haste, but gains attack speed, which is very, very crucial for a lot of champions. Critical strikes will reduce your non-ultimate abilities cooldown by 20%. It changes to 15% of the cooldown. But, and here's what's really cool about this, your abilities deal up to 12% increased damage based on your critical rate, which is really cool. So if you have like a lot of crit and you're playing an ability-based champion, right, this is gonna help you deal more damage. Notable beneficiaries, I guess, are Zaya, right? The 12% increased damage on her third ability is absolutely crazy. Overall, I think it's a nice change. I think it makes it very clear what this item is about. I just don't know about the numbers. They seem low to me. It seems expensive, and only 40 AD with 15% attack speed just doesn't do it for me. I wonder how good it is on Yone more than anything, right? With your second ability and first ability getting buffed up by 12%, I think that could be huge. And you finally get the attack speed instead of the ability haste that was already useless on you. So I think Yone actually benefits quite a bit from this item. Could be a first item rush as well. But I just don't know the value of it because this seems like a nerf in terms of stats while it remains pretty expensive. Magnetic Blaster, and I think this item is what you need to look out for. This item is OP and got a massive buff, and I think champions that can utilize this item well, like the Caitlyn for example, will be doing really, really well. Because out of nowhere, right, you lose 10% attack speed, but you gain 25 AD, which is huge. And the passive gets gets buffed, right? So you gain 125 additional range on your next attack, 50 for melees, and you deal 50 to 120 bonus magic damage. That was the old passive, right? So now they're making it so it's slightly less range. You gain 25 less range, you only get 100, right? So this, I guess, is a nerf to Twisted Fate, right? Because Twisted Fate is the only, like, champion that built it just for the range, right? But for other ECs, it's a big buff, right? Because you get 25 AD. And now you also gain 60 movement speed for 0.75 seconds, right? So you can auto-attack with Caitlyn from super far away and immediately move. So it's similar like having Storm Razor and Magnetic Blaster into one item that gives you both attack speed and AD. So I think like a lot of ADCs will be rushing this item. I can see a lot of builds where they go Bloodthirster first and then this. But it's such a huge buff. And I think champions that can really benefit from this one item spike, like the Caitlyn, that comes to mind the most. But I can definitely see this on Draven, just poking with your first auto attack and Q damage. It's gonna be super insane. Tristana would love this as well. Get her increased range right away. Also, Tristana probably benefits from, I didn't mention this before, but she definitely benefits from the Navori Quick Blades too. This is decent for Tristana too. Maybe Sivir as well. Navori Quick Blade Sivir. I can see this be good in a lot of champions. I'm just having doubts about the stats, right? And this is the case for a lot of these items. I feel like the stats aren't great. The only item that got like a stat buff is Magnetic Blaster, right? So got Moral Reminder. So the gold goes down, but the attack damage goes down, but you also get attack speed. So it seems like every item now has attack damage and attack speed, which is kind of funny. But instead of 33% armor pen, they're making it 30%. But if your attacks, if you damage them with attacks that clearly strike, you get an extra 6%. So it goes to 36, right? Which is quite a bit. So champions like Zed that don't know attack much are not going to build this anymore because you only get 30 armor pen and worse stats for you, right, by adding the attack speed as well. And this is what I was talking about during the Cyrilda Grudge segment. There's just no reason to really build a World Reminder now on non-crit based champions, right? So this becomes the go-to for crit champions. So you gain 3% armor pen on your auto attacks, you gain 15% attack speed, but you lose 5 damage, but it does become cheaper. So this just continues to be the go-to third item choice for pretty much every ADC, right? Every crit auto attack ADC. The only champion that won't be building this is probably Ezreal, who's going to be building Cyrilda's Grudge. I can maybe see Corki like Cyrilda's Grudge as well. But yeah, that's about it. The Collector, and this is crazy because it's crazy because I'm the Collector hater, right? I'm one of the biggest Collector haters on YouTube, but I need to admit that's actually pretty good now. It's getting a 5 damage buff, which is really big for Collector. One of the main issues that Collector had is how cost inefficient it was for the stats it gave, but this is a decent buff. 45 AD is a lot. If you look at other items, World Reminder only gives you 25, right? Noon Quiver does 40 now. If Bloodthirst I think gives 50, but with all these items not giving a lot of AD, having an item that just gives you solid damage is really good, right? The Collector. And they made the passive be better in the late game. So instead of being 5% of maximum health, it becomes 4% plus 2% crit chance or critical rate. So if you have like a 100 critical rate, that will give you, it will make it 6%. If you have 50, then it will be 5%. But it permanently increased the max health percentage threshold by 0.1% every time you get an execute. So if you get 10 kills with Collector, you get an extra 1%. So if you have 100% crit and you get 10 kills, that's an extra 3%, plus the 4, it goes to 7%, right? Instead of 5, it goes to 7, which is a pretty big deal. So Collector is worse until you have 50% crit. When you have 50% crit, it's even or better based on the kills that you get, and you get a free 5% damage boost. So this is big. The Collector is a massive winner of this patch, and because other items, in my opinion, have kind of gotten nerfed, I expect the Collector to be one of the best AD items, and I expect a lot of ADCs to be going Collector. Champions like Draven, champions like Misfortune, champions like Caitlyn. Like, I could totally see a Collector Magnetic Blaster build dominate on champions like Caitlyn and Draven and so on. So, really nice change on the Collector, and this will benefit early game aggressive ADCs quite a lot, which I think is kind of the memo here. I don't think that the late game ADCs will be able to keep up with the power of early game ADCs here. Essence River change. This is a complete rework, by the way. This is a whole new item. So it loses 5 AD, becomes 50 gold cheaper, which is initially a nerf, but obviously the passive is completely different. Casting an ability generates a spell blade charge, a maximum 3 charges, so it's similar to the item that got removed, the Solari Charge Blade, and kind of like Trinity Force in a sense, but mostly like Solari Charge Blade. Hitting an enemy with an attack consumes a charge, dealing 90% base attack damage as physical damage, and grants 40 movement speed for 2 seconds, which is really insane. This is a lot of movement speed and a lot of damage. This bonus can critically strike. Each ability generates only 1 charge per 2 seconds. Again, biggest winners of this. Ezreal could kind of look to go into crit builds with this. Lucian, huge beneficiary of this. Draven, huge beneficiary of this. Pretty much any champion that casts abilities, any champion that really liked going for the Solari Charge Blade is benefiting from this. It's overall like a way better Solari Charge Blade that gives you damage, right, instead of useless attack speed and ability haste. My one concern again is the stats, right? 35 AD with crit, and I think you keep the ability haste too. It's meh. It's meh in terms of stats again, right? But I can see this be good on a lot of champions. Maybe the Corki, right? And you still get the mana. You still get the mana, right? You still get the additional mana on the passive. Well, you don't see it here, but that's still there. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't know how it will do because again the stats are really low, but it could be a good item. Phantom Dancer is just from what I understand, it's kind of worse than when it was already bad, but they are making it a lot cheaper. 2,800 gold, you're losing 5 attack damage, but you're gaining 10 attack speed. So overall, this is a buff, right, for Phantom Dancer. Overall, this is a slight buff. You lose 5 AD, but you get 10% attack speed, and it's 200 gold cheaper. So overall, a buff. But the passive changes. So instead of having the 4 stacks, so you attack 4 times and you gain 25% attack speed, you gain it right away, and you gain the movement speed. But you only get it for 3 seconds, and you need to keep attacking and critting to extend the duration by 1 second. So instead of having to stack it up 4 times, you get it right away, but you need to keep it active. And of course, the attacks reduce the cooldown by 1 second, which makes this a little better. I think overall, this is a nice change. I think it's tricky, right? It's gonna be better in like team fights, but it's gonna be worse just as existing as like a farming tool item, right? Because you only gain the attack speed when you have to attack a champion. Before you could stack on minions, stack 4 attacks on minions, and you would have it right away. So I don't know how I feel about this. I'm sure it's gonna be good on team fighting for hyper carry ADCs. Champions like Zaya, Sever, Jinx, right? Jinx comes to mind immediately with this change. But I do think by making it cheaper, they're kind of opening up as a great second item choice on a lot of champions. I think overall, it might be a slight nerf for the purposes that it was used before. But I believe that we're going to see it a lot more, because now it kind of has a niche, right? It has a right situation to build it in. The previous Phantom Dancer was kind of like, yeah, you get all this attack speed and movement speed and damage, but the item within itself is just not that good compared to other items. With every other item kind of getting nerfed, in my opinion, or at least a lot of items getting nerfed, Phantom Dancer, by also costing only 2,800 gold, kind of has a niche. Like, I would buy Phantom Dancer 100,000 times more often than I would buy the new item, Soul Transfer, right? Where you get similar attack damage, similar attack speed, 25 and 30. Phantom Dancer gives 20 and 40% attack speed, and it costs 400 gold less. You know, Phantom Dancer is making a good case here. So I think it'll probably be played a little more. And Fitting the Edge, now you can get 5 crit items, and your last critical strike is going to be converted into critical strike damage. I really need to see how this is going to work with Yone and Yasuo. I'm really confused, because Yone and Yasuo obviously exceed 100% by an insane margin. But that 100% on Yone, Yasuo, and Tryndamere now gets converted into damage. So I'm assuming this might not even work with them. If it does work with them, then those champions will be immediately nerfed, or this will be immediately patched. Because that's disgusting, right? Just getting 250% crit rate on those champions. But because it gets converted into AD, I'm thinking maybe it won't count for the purposes of Infinity Edge. If it does count, then, you know, those champions will just be immediately godlike and immediately nerfed. But I'm assuming it just doesn't count. Ardent Sensor. So, the Ardent Sensor attacks can crit. So Enchanter supports with crit ADCs have been buffed, right? Enchanter supports have been really good on champions like Kai'Sa and Vayne, who are more focused on attack speed, not so much crit. But now Enchanter supports will actually be really good with crit as well because of Ardent Sensor. So there's a huge buff to champions like Jinx, right? Champions like Tristana. Nashor's Tooth, they're nerfing it for AD. You do 20% bonus attack damage on AD. It was already pretty bad on AD, like no one really built this on AD. But it's getting buffed for AP, 30% instead of 25%, so it's getting a 5% AP boost on AP. Obviously, champions like Teemo, AP Varus. I don't want to say Twisted Fate because you should never build Nashor's Tooth on Twisted Fate, but Twisted Fate, because I see a lot of people build it, it's kind of a buff, right? If you're playing AP attack speed based champions. Another champion that comes to mind is Gwen, right? Gwen. This is a very nice change for those champions, right? They love this. 30% AP on Nashor's Tooth is actually really nice. Wit's End is getting more expensive and doing slightly less damage. I think they're trying to force ADCs to not really build. With these 2 items, they're like, no, you're gonna build crit. We're gonna nerf every item that is not giving you crit. So, Wit's End was already a pretty bad item. This kind of kills it, in my opinion. I think it might still be okay on hit builds, like on on-hit Varus and on-hit Kai'Sa. But I would avoid it for the most part. I thought it was already pretty weak. Now this just kind of makes it even weaker. But overall, nice little change on the Naster's Tooth for those AP champions, and you won't really be seeing on ADC. Overall, I think that the ADC items are nerfed more than anything, but I know some ADCs will benefit a big from these items and will definitely completely change the ADC meta, which is always nice to see. Let's look at the enchanted item rework. So we have new enchants. First of all, Strikebreaker, which dashes short distance, but what's really interesting is it slows enemies for 30% for 3 seconds. So champions that want to be on your face, huge benefit. The biggest winner of this change is, of course, Darius. Darius absolutely loves this item in League PC and will definitely love it here. Just slowing down someone for 3 seconds, allowing you to easily stack your passive, is absolutely crazy for a champion like Darius. Garen is another huge beneficiary, right? You run at someone, you slow them for 3 seconds, and they have to sit there and you spin around and completely obliterate them. So I think the meta is just really pushing these bruisers to be really, really good, and these split pushers to be really, really good. Especially with the teleport changes too. The whole meta is being completely changed through that. So I guess we'll see how it goes. Gore Drinker, which again this is an item that's gonna help champions that it's kind of like the previous Hydra, I guess, but the healing is equal to 2%, is equal to 12% missing health and 20% attack damage. The base damage is also quite a bit higher. It has a longer cooldown, but for each champion healing 12% missing health, this is really insane on a lot of bruisers. This is a crazy amount of healing, right? It's like a Darius Q pretty much. So using that like with 5 enemies, you get like your full HP back. So again, insane item for bruisers. Strikebreaker and Gore Drinker are going to be great choices. It's nice to finally have some good choices for bruisers, because before everybody would go like Proto Belt. Gale Force, this is more intended to be towards the ADCs. It has a longer cooldown than Gore Drinker and Strikebreaker, of course. It's 50 seconds, and it gives you a short dash. So this is similar to Proto Belt, but for ADCs. And it actually does quite a bit of decent damage based on your bonus attack damage. So if you are building AD, this is a decent tool to kite back, but also to engage. I don't know how good this is going to be as compared to Stasis, which a lot of ADCs love, and the Quicksilver, which a lot of ADCs love, but this finally gives you an aggressive tool, like a mobility tool instead of a defensive tool, right? So I'm assuming some ADCs will benefit a lot from it. Champions like Xayah would also love the dash for the third ability. Can definitely make good use of it. But overall, I don't think it's that insane of a change, right? Because Quicksilver and Stasis are so valuable on ADCs. So I don't think it's that insane to have Gale Force in here too. Strikebreaker and Gore Drinker are awesome because you don't have another choice. When you play champions like Fiora, Riven, whatever, you end up going Proto Belt. So having Darius, again, you just go tank enchant, right? So having these choices makes it a lot better for them. And let's look at the adjusted Glorious Enchant. Instead of having 15% movement speed, and then when you run at a champion, you go 75, now it's just 30, right? Now you just get 30% movement speed, which might seem like a nerf, right? When you're running towards champions. But now, if you're running away from champions, you can still get that 30% movement speed. So I can kind of see this be decent on champions like TF, maybe Veigar, right? Champions that love movement speed, Syndra possibly. The problem with this overall is that you still don't really get a shockwave if you build on a ranged champion. But you do get 20% tenacity and 20% slow resist. So Glorious Enchant does have its niche. I still think it won't really be used though. Like the champions that would like to build a Glory Enchant, they're probably going to be going Gore Drinker or Strikebreaker, right? And I could see this be used on some niche ranged champions more than anything. Stoneblade Enchant, they're pretty much making this so bruisers stop building it and so like only tanks build it. They make it scale off bonus armor and magic resist. So no more Xin Zhao randomly getting 10,000 HP a shield, right? Now this is only build. Oh, let me just close my window real quick. Now it seems that it's based on armor and magic resist, so this is just a tank. A rune. It pretty much stays the same for tanks. Maybe it's even slightly buffed for tanks, but this is good because I hate seeing 20 stone plates every game in my games. Repulsor enchant. This is super interesting, and I can see that be really insane on a lot of engaged supports. Can you imagine getting a Rakan ult to knock up 5 people into repulsing them and stunning them for another 1.25 seconds? That's crazy. And the cooldown is really low, so this is super exciting for engaged supports mostly, who can just go in. Like before, you were just using it only for peel, right? For a champion like Katarina, right? To knock her out of her ult. But this is huge. It does have a delay now, 0.5 second delay, and this is why I said it's better on engaged supports who already can crowd control and then use it. Like Leona goes in, does her stun, and while they're stunned, you can use this delay to again knock them up and stun for 1.25 seconds. I think this is way too big. I think 1.25 seconds for something like this is insane. Like this is giving you like it's like a free Leona ult, you know? Like it's insane. This is literally a free Leona ult every 40 seconds. I think Leona ult is 1.75, but almost a Leona ult every 40 seconds for any support is really insane in my opinion. So I'm expecting this to be nerfed, to be honest, but it looks really strong. So if you're playing champions like Rakan, Nautilus, Leona, right, definitely abuse this item before it gets nerfed. Proto-build enchant, super broken. What is this? Who thought of this? Riot Games, are you serious? What is this? This is a huge buff for champions like Fizz, Echo, Diana, Evelynn, any AP assassin. What do you mean reduce their magic resist by 30%? Do you know how much 30% is? Bro, that's how much Mortal Reminder gives in Armor Pen. So if an enemy has like 100 magic resist, you just destroy 30 magic resist just like that. And you gain 20% movement speed for 3 seconds. Champions like Akali will love this, Katarina will love this. This is a huge buff to Proto build. So AP assassins are definitely not going anywhere. This is a massive buff. And I can even see this played on mages. On Syndra, you just Proto belt ult someone, you just one-shot them from full. And I'm seeing a lot of anti-tank mechanisms, right? This completely counters tanks. Like with Evelynn, you're one-shotting a full tank now. You're just one-shotting them, by the way. You're completely one-shotting a full tank. So, again, more anti-tank mechanisms. Like even AP assassins were supposed to be countered by tanks will now be absolutely destroying tanks. So, huge change for a lot of AP assassins. They're getting a massive buff from this. A really OP change to Proto build. And this is another reason why I'm not that excited about the ADCs. I feel like all other classes have gotten better buffs than ADCs. AP assassins have gotten better buffs. Bruisers have gotten better buffs. I think this patch is really more about split push bruisers, AP assassins, and AP mage mid laners. Might even build this on Kassadin now, honestly. And just one-shot tanks. Veil enchant, so the spell shield is actually really broken in my opinion. I thought it was one of the best enchants in the game. Now it will remove disables and crowd control effects from a target allied champion. You can do it on yourself, which really sucks. But overall, this is it's a pretty big buff, right? Because you still gain the 3-second spell shield, but now you also remove disables and crowd control effects from a target. So if you're a good enchanter support, right, this actually had some skill expression to the enchanter role. Before it was pretty easy. Like obviously being able to block an important spell was huge, but now being able to remove disables and crowd control is huge, right? Imagine your teammate gets Warwick ulted. I'm not sure if it's actually gonna work with a Warwick ult, because it's suppression, that's often weird. But let's say your ADC gets Leona ulted, boom, you give them you get rid of the CC, you give them like Quicksilver, and they gain a spell shield after that to dodge the Leona third ability as well. Like, what are you talking about here? Huge change for good enchanter support players. If you're a good enchanter support player, you can finally show off your skill with this. So really nice change. Dreammaker, I thought Dreammaker was ass compared to Veil enchant, to be honest. I don't know why you would ever build Dreammaker before as compared to Veil. So let's see what they've done with this. So, the blue Dream Bubble reduces their next incoming damage by 70 to 140%, and the purple grants the next hit 20. Okay, so they take less damage, they deal more damage. Both Dream Bubbles grant their next hit. Okay, so I guess you get more damage now. I guess more damage and more damage. That's not bad. I'll have to see what the numbers feel like in game. But in terms of utility, this is obviously way better. Way better. So with the Dreammaker, we'll have to see what it feels like, what the damage numbers actually feel like. It's really hard to judge just from seeing the patch notes, so we're gonna get a feel for it. But Veil Enchant, I think, is probably the best enchant in the game now. I think Stace and Quicksilver are really OP, but if you're not making use of those, Veil Enchant is probably the best enchant in the game. It's such a broken ability. I wouldn't be surprised to see this on some junglers too that are like more supportive oriented. Megatron Enchant. So Megatron Enchant is actually kind of interesting. I think it's more of a, I think it's pretty gimmicky, right? I didn't think it was good before. Now I think it's pretty bad still, but it's funny. You can cast towards an allied minion, allied champion, jungle monsters. You dash behind them and you gain 30% movement speed for 1.5 seconds. That's what it was before, right? And that was pretty useless. Now you cast in end direction, and if you hit an allied minion, an allied champion, or wall, you dash to them and you gain 30 movement speed. So it's kind of like a Nautilus hook that you can use on walls and pull yourself there. I don't think it can even come close to being comparable to Repulsor though. You know, like most of these champions that want to go in already have engaged tools, right? They already have an Nautilus hook, right? I think it's kind of gimmicky. I'm sure like you can make some insane looking plays with it, but I don't think it's very good overall, I'll be honest. And Hydra is the final change. The problem with Hydra now is that Gore Drinker and Stridebreaker are just so much better for these champions that I'm not really sure who's going to build Hydra. So you activate it once, and for the next 9 seconds, you deal physical damage as Splash, and melee attacks deal splash damage in a bigger area than range attacks. And it's 30-second cooldown. So what's interesting about this, right, is that it improves the wave clear of a lot of champions. So I could maybe see this on a champion like Fiora, even though I know she would like Stridebreaker a lot more. I could, because you can Stridebreaker and then easily get your ult procs while the enemy's slowed, right? But I could see Revenus Hydra be a thing for those champions that kind of lack wave clear and have to sit there and like hit the wave a million times. I don't think it has many use cases other than maybe Fiora. I don't think it's very good whatsoever. Like it's not worth wasting your enchant on this, right? It's not worth it. It's way too weak compared to other enchants in my opinion, but I can see some niche uses. Other items. Finally, the Hullbreaker has returned. One of the most exciting items in the game. The ultimate split push item, and it's coming back with 400 health and 45 AD. Really good stats for any bruiser, right? At a price of 3,100 gold. You gain 40 movement speed now, which is really interesting and does help a lot of these split pushers. So instead of you getting armor and magic resist when you're isolated, that doesn't exist anymore. Instead, what they've done is nearby allied sieged and super minions gain armor and magic resist, which is a lot, right? 20 to 130 armor and 10 to 120 magic resist is a lot of magic resistant armor. So this is going to help a lot with the split push. And now you're insanely good at taking turrets, but also dealing damage to enemy champions, because every 5th attack against enemy champions or epic monsters deal bonus damage. Also, I guess it's not for turrets, it's just for enemy champions. Increased. Oh no, okay, it does more damage to structures. So you do more damage to enemy champions every 5th attack, but an even more insane amount to structures. So you absolutely melt structures. And you'll see later in this video, turrets actually got buffed the gold that they give you. So taking down turrets is extremely important. So I'll be honest, I think this is the final piece of the Exodia puzzle that split pushers wanted, right? This is huge. Absolutely huge for split pushers. Champions like Fiora, Jax, Camille, all are going to be super OP with this Hullbreaker split pushing. And since it's every 5th attack, champions like Scion or Aatrox that have low attack speed won't be benefiting as much, right? Champions have high attack speed, like the Fiora, they can attack cancel, like Jax with his passive. Bro, can you imagine Jax against a turret with Hullbreaker? Bro, that turret is not surviving for more than 3 seconds. Jax about to be the worst nightmare of turrets. Bro, if I'm a turret and I see Jax coming, I'm just FFing the game, bro. I'm not taking that. I'm getting hit the 5th time and I'm just like collapsing. Turrets will hate to see Jax coming. So this is a really, really strong item. Like rushing Hullbreaker into Just rushing Hullbreaker into Strikebreaker will just be so strong for these split push champions, or Gore Drinker even. Eclipse is getting a buff, right? You gain 5 AD for only 100 gold, right? This is a good deal. And you do 7% of the target's max health. So immediately what I'm seeing here is, again, split push champions like Riven, like Fiora, that can make use of the Eclipse. I'm seeing Zed here in my mind. I'm getting flashes of AD assassins abusing this item like Zed. The last Whisper changes, of course. Now it just gives armor pen, doesn't give attack damage. It's kind of ass now. I wouldn't really build it. I would avoid building it as I'm building up to my other items. Oh, it actually gets nerfed to this 12% armor pen now. That kinda sucks. But it's only 800 gold, I guess. Maybe it's okay. I would avoid building this, to be honest, as I'm building towards my item. Nasser's Talon. Oh, it actually only gives 30 AP now. That's the item that builds into Hurricane and Nasser's Tooth. I thought it was always really good to give for 800 gold 40 AP. That's the same as Blasting Wand, and I thought that was pretty good. But they're nerfing it down to 30, so it's less good. On your build path, maybe consider building the attack speed component first. This shard thing, which is like a new item. What even is that? Kirchi's Shard? I don't even remember what this is. Apparently I use that 15 AD and 0 attack speed. What even was this? I genuinely do not remember. What is that? Dagger. You build off a dagger. I genuinely cannot remember what this is. Oh, it's the Trinity Force one. No, wait. Is it the Trinity Force one? I thought it was Stinger. No, I'm not sure what this is, to be honest. But now it gives 15 AD instead of attack speed. 20% attack speed. I genuinely cannot remember what this is. What is this, a new item? Trying to look it up. I genuinely do not know what this is. Oh, it's the... Okay, it's the electric component. Okay, I see it's the electric component, and now it gives 80 instead of attack speed. Okay, whatever. I mean, this is cool, I guess, because now the magnetic blaster gives it a lot of AD, so they had to fix the build path. Okay. Plate steel caps. This is huge, by the way. Huge change. So now it reduces only the damage taken from champions. It doesn't reduce minion or turret damage. Big. Chat, really big. This is really big because it makes dives a lot harder. The enemy jungler can just buy, or like the enemy laner can just get plate steel caps and tank 5 turret shots, right? That's really big. And the minion damage actually helps a lot. Now you will get Mercury Treads, or Mercury Treads gets the same treatment. Obviously there's a lot of random magic damage flying around. That's not from champions. But for the plate steel caps, it's a pretty solid nerf. So now you really have to be careful with what boots you choose. You don't just default to plate steel caps because of the minion and turret damage, right? So this is a big change and a decent nerf to mostly plate steel caps, and I like it. I definitely like it. Iron Boots of Lucidity, really interesting. Boots of Mana too, really interesting. So this is actually a decent buff to mana-less champions. So this is a big buff to Akali, right? So you can get base health regen. Decent buff to Vladimir. Decent buff to perhaps Riven could now utilize Iron Boots of Lucidity and get that base health regen. But Akali, Karina, and Vladimir are the 3 biggest enjoyers of this. And 75 base health regen is not low, bro. Because you're getting this first item, having the 75 base health regen in lane, especially for champions like Karina and Akali who get poked a lot, this is a decent change, especially if you take into account the proto build change as well. Berserker Greaves now attacks restore 8 health on hit. The main reason that this exists is because every ADC goes Grievous Glutinous Greaves. Every ADC goes Glutinous Greaves because they want to have that sustain in lane, right? They get poked down, they want to heal back up. Now getting this from Berserker Greaves makes Berserker Greaves very alluring, because Berserker Greaves was actually, stat-wise, it's quite a bit better than Glutinous. So I'm seeing a lot of ADCs that are going to rush Bloodthirster especially go for Berserker Greaves here. This is a very, very nice change to Berserker Greaves, and I think this will actually make it so most ADCs end up going Berserker Greaves instead of Gluttonous. So very nice change. And of course we have the removed items. The Meteor enchant, which was kind of useless. Teleport now becomes a summoner spell, and we're going to talk about that later. And how that might actually change the game. Because changes like this, by the way, are like, can be game shifting. So like this could become the new like Flash, where every champion takes teleport. But we'll talk about that in a bit. So Solari Charge Blade, Mortal Shield Bone, Storm Razor removed. Alright, Summoner's Rift. So with the magic of Bandle City has begun to ripple, bringing some strange and wondrous changes to the rift. Some bushes have quietly shifted position under the influence of magic. So pretty much some bushes are in different places. This doesn't change the map as much as you would think. It's very slight changes to make vision. I think it's an improvement overall. I think it's I think it makes it harder to just camp in a bush and wait for enemies to walk by with the way that the bushes are positioned. And I think vision also shifts a bit. And I think late game vision becomes more important because of the bush placements that exist in the river now. So I think overall it's a decent change. 99.9% of the player base will not see a difference. Was everything Enchanted Piggy? I think this originally is only coming to Legendary queue, but I'm not sure. But it's an early game objective to fight for. But it spawns in both the Dragon and Baron pits. So the way that kind of works is that you get this like a mini piggy that does more damage to turrets. It's kind of like the grubs from the League of Legends PC version, right? So the way that kind of works is after the junglers finish their first clear, or the second clear, excuse me, because it's 145. You're gonna finish your first clear. By the time you finish your second clear, you're gonna go and kill the Enchanted Piggy. Since two of them spawn, usually the junglers are gonna split, I'm assuming. And you get this little buff. I think it's only in Legendary queue. That's what we were originally told, but I'm not seeing anything like that in the patch notes. So maybe this exists for every mode. Overall, it's a nice little change. Add another little objective. And we'll talk about objectives and the tempo and gameplay at the gameplay tempo adjustments. The main issue that Wild Rift has right now, in my opinion, is the mid game, not the early game. There's nothing to fight. There's nothing to fight for in the mid game, right? You get the Enchant Assemble at 5 minutes, and then until 12 minutes, which is Baron, there's 7 minutes of nothingness, and then from Baron to Elder Dragon, right, you only just fight for Barons up until Elder Dragon spawned at 18 minutes, because no one cares about dragons, they're too weak. So this actually completely changes the gameplay tempo, and we'll talk exactly about what that means and what that's going to mean for your ranked games. But in my opinion, this isn't the right approach. Obviously, I trust Riot Games with my heart when it comes to gameplay. They've done a great job with Wild Rift in general, so I trust them with my heart. I'm sure this is going to be better than what we had before, but I'll explain exactly what I would like. So, plates drop sooner, from 7:30 to 6 minutes, and objectives also spawn at 6 minutes, which we'll talk about later. It's not here yet. This is subtle foreshadowing. So, turret resistance. Now it becomes easier to take the first 4 plates, right? So it's easier to take the first 4 plates, but you have less time to do so. You only have up to 6 minutes to take them. So what this tells me is that for the first 6 minutes, you're stuck in lane. You want to play for plates, especially when they're this easy to get. If you roam, you're gonna get punished. You're gonna lose a lot of plates, right? But the cool thing is that it ends quick. At 6 minutes, the laning phase is over, and you can escape it. You can go do other things. You don't have to defend the plates anymore. So outer turret without plating, 2550. Inner turret base resistances, 15.7. Gold for destroying the inner turret now goes to 450. This is for the tier 2 turret, not the tier 1 turret, right? And the team-wide gold is 100 per player. So it's 100 plus 25 per player. So that's 175. Wait, 25 per player. 25 times 5, right? That's what we're doing here. So 125. So 125 plus 100, 225 extra gold from taking the inner turrets. This is what I was talking about before with split push and turrets being important. 225 gold extra than the gold you already got. So now you're getting 450 gold plus 100 per player. You're getting 950 gold from taking the inner turret. That's huge. That is a big change, chat. Don't let this change go unnoticed. Big change here. Destroying the first inner turret will now grant a shield to the outer turret as well. So when you kill the first turret, the next turret is gonna get shield, so you can't just immediately get that one, right? It's gonna get shield in the early game. So the whole point of it is, well, if you're hard winning your lane, you don't take 2 turrets and completely win the game, right? Which makes sense and it's fair. Minion changes. So just to recap the turret changes. Turret plates, 6 minutes. Taking turrets, way more gold. Take turrets, take plates. Play for turrets. This is the mid-game objective that we're looking for, right? We don't care about dragons, we care about turrets, especially inner turrets if you can get them. Minions. So, this is an interesting change because it completely changes the game in my opinion. The cannon, the minions are all gaining HP per level. Actually, the cannon is not gaining HP per level, it loses HP per level, but it gains HP. It loses HP, but they gain armor and they gain magic resist. So, what's important to notice here? Look how low the number of magic resist is compared to the number of armor, right? So what does this mean? It means minions will be tanky, but only for physical damage dealers, while they'll be less tanky for mages. So it's really important to have a mage that can clear the wave in your team. And this is why I think mages are actually getting a buff from this patch. It's this change right here. And you can see it happening everywhere. Obviously mid lane, top lane, and global minion scaling will be different. I don't know why they're doing it like this. So in the mid lane, right? AD mid laners will suffer from this because it's going to be harder to clean up the minions. And obviously in the mid to late game, ADCs usually go mid lane, so they will kind of suffer here too. So this also leads me to think that we might have an APC meta in our hands, especially with the AD items being kind of underwhelming, you know? So this is a very interesting change, and I think it benefits mages, especially wave clear mages, quite a lot. For the top lane, before minute 6, so during laning phase, top lane minion damage to other minions is less. So that means that the wave won't really automatically push by itself. You need to kind of push it on your own. And before 7 minutes, solo XP share for top lane minions from 120 was going to 130. That means that it means get off my lane. It means I don't want to share, right? And I think the reason they're doing this is to avoid lane swapping, right? Lane swapping, then just sending your dual lane to top lane won't really be a thing, because you miss out on the XP, right? You get less XP. So they want to like preemptively avoid lane swapping with these changes on the top lane. And the global minion changes, of course, all of them are getting more HP. So again, wave clear becomes harder and more important. Nexus Shield is slightly changing. Instead of just giving a straight up Nexus Shield, now at 12 minutes the shield will start to decay and it will fully disappear by 16 minutes. So at 15 minutes you might be able to win because the shield will be decayed by quite a bit. The Enchanted Ensemble and the dragons are now spawning at 6 minutes. That means that you can't get turret plates with the Enchanted Ensemble, right? This is a pretty big change here. And instead of 60% of the turret's HP, it's only going to do 50%. But to make up for you not getting plates, you also get 250 gold as a reward when the ensemble hits a turret. Overall, this is kind of a nerf for Enchanted Ensemble, right? It does less damage to turrets, and you only get 250 gold when usually you would get, at a bare minimum, 450, right? But you could even kill the turret. So I still think it's fine to get Enchanted Ensemble over Dragon, but the Dragons might actually have a little more value now, that they're both kind of bad now. To be honest, I might just skip both and I might just farm my camps at this point, because they're both pretty weak overall as objectives. I think Enchanted Ensemble can still be decent, especially if you can hold it and try to take an inner turret with it. I think a lot of value will come from just taking the Enchanted Ensemble, taking one turret, and then when the shield falls on 9 minutes, using the Enchantment Assemble to break open the inner turret. I think that could be a good strategy to make the Enchantment Assemble really worth it. Because again, taking an inner turret like wins you the game. You get like 1,000 gold almost. So Elemental Dragon will spawn at 6 minutes. This is Elemental Dragons, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to say Baron. Just a typo from Riot. Riot Games. No one reads these patches before they get released. Spawn time, it's now at 11 minutes, right? It gives you something to play for right away in the mid game, which is a decent change in my opinion, right? So the dragon, let's say you get the dragon at 6:20, 6:30 maybe. The Baron will spawn at 11, similar time with the next dragon, the second dragon. So Baron spawns at around the same time as second dragon now at 11 minutes. But the first Baron is considerably weaker. You only get it for 90 seconds, right? And the Empower Baron min damage reduction versus enemy champions goes from 50 to 60 to 40 to 50. So Baron overall is weaker by quite a bit. Like the wave clear will be easier. I wonder if this, however, is overall and like Baron gets a huge buff by these changes, right? Because the min's already tankier, so giving them damage reduction makes it even harder. So what I'm thinking is that this actually not a nerf, it's just a way to adjust it so it's the same as it was before. And I'm actually suspecting that this will be, it's not enough of a nerf, right? Because this is more than a 10% buff to the HP growth, right? It's more than a 10% buff. So, and this is only a 10% nerf. So I think overall, getting Baron with these minions is actually still really OP. So I don't think that this nerf really matters, but the first dragon will be, like I'm not sure if it's even or it might even be a slight buff or a slight nerf, but the first Baron is just weaker because you only get it for 90 seconds. And the whole point of this is to get the inner turrets, right? Now you get Baron to get the inner turrets at 11 minutes. And even though it's only 90 seconds, I think this is a huge buff. I think this is a huge buff to getting Baron because first Baron at 11 minutes with 90 seconds, you can get 3 inner turrets. You definitely can get 3 inner turrets, and that's 3,000 gold, and the game is over. You know, so I think getting first Baron could be big. So you might see some cheeses of champions just like rushing Baron at 11 minutes when no one's expecting it, but overall, I think this is decent. The problem that I have is that after you get Baron at like 11 to 12 minutes, if somebody gets it, there's just nothing to do against Elder. That spawns at 19 minutes now. And what I don't like is that it feels like with the changes that they've made, that the game will drag and last longer. I think the game will be ending at Elder Dragon now because it's really hard to end with the first Baron. You won't be able to. Maybe you can end with a second Baron, right? Maybe you can end with a second Baron. But if you can, then Elder Dragon, right? And now it's 19 minutes of 18 minutes. So the average game time will be like 20 minutes, right? So we're going to be having these longer games, which of course benefit late game champions. You're going to really get all 3 phases of the game. But the Elder Dragon is getting a massive buff. You're getting 105 extra true damage. Like Elder Dragon was already super OP. Now, if you get Elder Dragon, you win the game. Simple as that, right? 19 minutes, the game ends. It's over. Whichever team gets this buff, even on one champion, it's such a big buff that the game is just over. And then the blue and red buffs now becoming chained at 6 minutes, and then the global buff at 11 minutes. So champions that really benefit from blue and red buff outside of junglers benefit quite a bit from this, right? Overall, this is telling me that Castlin is going to be super OP, so I'm happy with that. Objective bounties, this was one of the most broken mechanics in the game, and this is why I would often, when I'm behind, you'd see me in my stream literally run it down to get those turrets, right? Because it gave a huge amount of gold, the objective bounties. I would literally just sprint to the side lane and try to get as many turrets as I can when I was behind because of how OP the bounty is. So I'm glad that's removed. I thought it was extremely OP, but I'm actually kind of, like, in my own way, I was happy that it existed because I feel like not a lot of people knew how OP it was. And even though I am a YouTuber, I should be telling people like good information so they can climb and so on. I didn't really advertise it too much how OP objective bounties are. I would mention it in my stream when I was doing it, when I would just book it down a side lane to try to take objective bounties. So I didn't talk about it enough with how OP it really was to kind of keep it to myself to make some comebacks. But yeah, objective bounties were really insane. So definitely happy. I don't know how much is being lowered by, but definitely OP. And it was for the outer turrets too, right? So if you're getting stomped and you haven't gotten a single turret, what would often happen is you would win one team fight, and then you would go and get 3 of the outer turrets, and you would get the objective bounty for all of them, and you would just be ahead in gold out of nowhere. And it was so dumb. It was so dumb. So I'm glad this is getting removed. And the Ixtali Scorpion is getting removed. I'm not gonna miss the little guy, I'll be honest. If he didn't really grow on me, don't miss him, don't care. So, huge change. 2 huge changes. First, when equipped with Smite, gold and XP gain from dealing blows to minions are reduced, but now from 7:30 goes to 6 to match the 6-minute timer of the plates and the objectives. So your jungler is gonna start stealing your waves a minute and 30 seconds earlier, so be aware of that. Teleport, and this is a massive change, chat. Massive change. So, after channeling for 3.5 seconds, teleport to an allied structure, champion, or ward. Excludes the areas in range of enemy inhibitor. 3.5 seconds is not a lot of time. Not a lot of time. Right? So you can get back to lane. It has a cooldown of 3 minutes, which is not a lot. So, in my mind, this might be the biggest change that Riot has made in a long time, because they've actually made it a viable spell. It wasn't a viable enchant. No one got teleport. You only got teleport to steal Elder Dragon super late in the game. But now, this has value. This has value in a lot of mid laners. This has value on supports that want to like randomly roam top lane during a 1v1. This has value on Baron laners that want to split push, but they also want to group for objectives, right? Imagine you're playing against Fiora, right? And she has teleport and you don't. She's already slamming you in the side lane. You're under turret, barely defending. And she teleports to Baron or she teleports to Elder and you can't match it. You know? Because you've decided to go Ignite. So I think this spell has a lot of potential. Right? Imagine you're playing versus Kassadin. You're poking him out of lane. You're beating him up in lane. Base teleport. He doesn't lose a single minion. I don't know how I feel about this. It's a huge change. I really need to see it in action to really be able to understand it. I need to see it in competitive as well as how pro players are using this, right? In tournaments and so on. To really make up my mind. But I think this has the potential to be huge. My one concern is that because the map is pretty small, that's what makes teleport so bad right now. The map is so small that you can walk to lane in 20 seconds, right? Does this warrant losing your ignite in lane, in mid lane? It might. So if you're playing mages, if you're playing champions that get poked down a lot, like, I don't know if you guys know, but in PC League, teleport has been nerfed countless times because of its ability to just teleport back to lane. And even, let's say that an enemy champion, you get a solo kill on an enemy champion, right? You don't have time to push the wave before they spawn. They spawn and they teleport back and they freeze the wave. You got a kill, but the overall goal difference is bad for you because they're gonna freeze the wave and you're gonna miss a bunch of minions and you have to base and walk back to lane because you have ignite and you don't have teleport. So that's why teleport has been nerfed countless times just for that particular interaction where you get a kill but you actually don't get rewarded. So I wonder if we're gonna see something similar in Wild Rift with this teleport. Is this gonna save a lot of bad players? Is this gonna completely change the split push meta? I'm not sure, and I don't know yet. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I think this has the potential to be very big. And I think finding good uses of teleport could definitely get you a lot of wins if you can figure out how to use the spell properly. I'm going to definitely be trying it out as the new patch starts, but I don't know how strong this is going to be. Battlefest, we don't care. We don't even know what this is, to be honest. We don't care, chat. New system. Alright, so these are our settings changes, so maybe we should go over them because I think they're pretty interesting. So you have an ally target lock toggle, so when you're playing like an enchanter, instead of like having a toggle to the default one is shield yourself, then there's one shield the lowest target ally. Now you can actually choose who you want your heals and shields to be smart cast towards, so usually like your ADC, right? So this is kind of interesting. Contextual signals. When certain conditions are met, contextual signals will appear on the top right of your screen. You'll be able to... Okay, so... Oh, I did see this in the PB and I wasn't sure if it's new. That's actually really cool. So if your lane opponent leaves the lane, you can actually tap on the top right and the missing right away. And it'll tell everyone that the champion is missing. So I think this is really cool. It's an awesome way to improve the communication within the game. Tank the dragon for me, like stuff like this is it's really cool, and we'll see how it actually works in game. Smite cooldown alert, like telling your team, yo, I don't have smite. Like these are really cool ways to communicate, and obviously I want voice chat. Voice chat would solve all these issues immediately, but more ways to communicate with your team is good. So, Grandmaster split into 3 divisions. GM 3, 2, and 1 from 30 to 60 marks. This does nothing. It does not make it feel more rewarding. It just makes Grandmaster look like a joke, similar to how Master looks like a joke now that it has 3 tiers. Soon we're going to get Challenger 3, 2, 1, and we're going to get a rank above Sovereign. It's so dumb. It's just a way to, like, because they've inflated so many players to Master and Grandmaster, it's kind of a way to separate those players and make people feel good about it. I wonder what it's going to be like with matchmaking too, if like Grandmaster... If you're Grandmaster 1, you'll match with more Grandmaster 1 players instead of Grandmaster 3 players. I guess we'll see, but... Defeat site SVP upgrade. The worst change of all time. So this is Galio's Ages, but even worse. So there's 3 performance-based tiers, and based on if you get SVP, if you get Gold or Silver SVP, you will receive 40 compensations. Or legendary energy compensation for legendary ranked mode. So they're actually adding 42 to legendary ranked, which is hilarious. So even in defeat, your impactful plays won't go unrewarded. So this is like the worst change of all time. It just makes it so that you should play for SVP. Don't help your teammates. Set them back if you can more than anything, and help yourself and play for SVP, right? Get the SVP, doesn't count as a loss. It's just a terrible change. I know that a lot of you guys will be like, no, but my team always ends, so when I lose a game and I get SVP, I feel good because I get Galio's Ages and it doesn't count as a loss. But you don't realize that the reason your teammates suck is this. This is the reason they suck. Because they keep losing games, but they keep getting SVP because they're playing versus, like, let's say you're playing in Plat, right? But you don't know how to play the game, but you get a bunch of kills, and you get a bunch of farm, and you get SVP. But you don't know anything about the game fundamentals, but you climb this way because of these SVPs. But the reason you're losing is because you're bad at the game. I don't care about your stats. You don't understand macro, you don't understand how to kill the Nexus, right? And then these players are in your games, and they don't know what they're doing because you only climb because SVP. And now you're mad because the game quality is ass, but at least you get SVP so you can climb and you can go ruin the games of the next elo because you didn't really learn how to win games, you just learned how to SVP farm, which congratulations, but it's not going to make you good at the game, you're just SVP farming. So there's going to be many SVP farmers who are higher ranked than they should be, ruining your games, and then you're going to be getting that SVP and SVP farming. So this is, again, anything that gives you fortitude I think is a bad change, but things that impact gameplay and tell you, yeah, if you play this way, you're gonna climb faster, I think that's completely disgusting. And I mean, you guys know my thoughts on Galio's Ages already. I think it's one of the worst things to ever happen to Wild Rift, and the community has been tricked into thinking it's good because it rewards you individually, but this is the exact reason why your games suck, and unfortunately no one understands this and they keep praising Galio's Ages. So, you know, enjoy having interest in your team every game, but at least it won't count as a loss because you got an SVP. New Starlight system. Win in Legendary Rank to earn Starlight, which can be redeemed for Star Cores. In Ranked, consuming a Star Core grants 1 extra segment per win, max 8 per season. So this pretty much means if you play Legendary Ranked, you get wins in Normal Ranked. There's just a way to incentivize players to play more Legendary Ranked, which... That's not the point, right? They're like, oh yeah, go in some legendary ranked games so you can get more wins in normal ranked. Like, no, legendary ranked is supposed to be this prestigious, only for good players Q. However, Riot has done a terrible job at that. It has improved a bit. Like, I'm seeing a lot of legends. I'm seeing a lot of people play legendary Q in the previous season, which didn't exist in any seasons before that. So that's really nice to see. But overall, this is like a dumb decision, I think, as well. But, you know, it is what it is. Research Management Center. Huge, bro, dude. Huge, by the way. Like, well, there's like 14 gigabytes. So anything that's going to shorten that is a good change, in my opinion. They're like, oh, yeah, we're friendly to, like, lower devices. And, like, I have an iPhone 12 Max, and it's like, I download Wild Rift, and I can't take a photo anymore. So obviously happy that this exists. The number of takedowns you achieve using a specific champion will be recorded across core and casual game modes. Okay, well, this is useless. Collector system upgrade. Collector level rewards will be... Okay, whatever, this is useless. Role selection. Okay, this is huge. Huge, chat. Lock in, lock in, lock in. Huge. This is so big for everyone. I love this. This is a really good change. So, you get your preferred position, then you put a secondary position, and then you put a fill position. So, you can't get 2 out of 5 positions. So, someone like me who doesn't really like playing ADC, I'm okay with support, but I don't really like playing support, especially when I queue up solo. I just want to play mid, jungle, or top. I can just put mid, then jungle, then top. And if I do get my fill position, I will actually receive compensation rewards with subject to a week limit. Obviously, more fortitude, hate that, hate this. More fortitude, we hate. But we do like that you won't be getting your worst role anymore. Because I've had so many people who are like, I can't jungle, I can't ADC. And then people will just like remake or just ruin the game, right? I think the best way to go about it, in my opinion, would be to have a preferred position and a position I don't want to play no matter what. I think that would be the best way to go about it, because now it's 2 positions that you can play no matter what, and that will make the queue time higher, I think. But overall, a good change. I like it. Season highest rank display. Okay, whatever. Now you get your season highest instead of your current. If you're gold to diamond 2 tiers. Okay, so this makes it if you're like low elo, the rank adjustment won't be as punishing. Whatever. You get more champion score in ranked as compared to casual game modes. Makes sense. Doesn't matter. Leaderboard and honorary title system optimization doesn't matter whatsoever. And skins. Okay, this is it. Huge patch. I'm so excited. I've told you guys I'm going to be shooting for rank 1 this season, so definitely tune into the streams. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's been almost an hour and 30 minutes. So if you're sticking, if you're still here, not only drop a like, but go down in the comment section and say I watched the whole thing. Just type I watched the whole thing, and I would really appreciate you. If you decide you're gonna watch an hour and 30 minutes of yapping about patch notes and what the meta will look like, you're super dedicated at getting better, which is awesome to see. And I can't wait to see you guys on the Rift for patch 6.2. Definitely leave a like and subscribe for more Wild Rift content. I hope that this video helped you get a better understanding of what the meta will look like. Thank you so much for watching.